Welcome to The Kindness Project, the podcast designed to share stories of kindness and share how kindness can make positive change in our world, one small act at a time. This time on The Kindness Project, classical literature, The Kindness Project book, and we have part one of our interview with Kristen Johnson, author of Ain't You Got No Manners. What are you doing, Charlotte?
Looking at a lovebird ripeness chart.
A what in a what now?
It's a lovebird ripeness chart, and it's like...
Sorry, what is a lovebird ripeness chart?
It's just this chart of the same bird but in 4 different colours, and it's just...
Right, let me have a look. Well, why do you need to know whether a lovebird is ripe enough? You're not going to eat one, are you? Lovebird ripeness chart. And there's a lovebird looking down on the ripeness chart as well. And that bird is unripe, clearly. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to another...
nonsense.
Another episode of The Kindness Project. This introduction after that start is even more pertinent because don't look at my intros. I'm joined by my partner in crime. If Shambolic Podcasting was a chargeable offence, it's Charlotte Daves. How are you? Go on, you know you want to say it. I'm tired. I'm really tired. I know you're tired, but we're fighting our way through, aren't we?
I'm 1 coffee in. I don't think I'm going to go in.
Well, I think we've mastered now is the tired enthusiasm that we try and bring to the podcast.
I have an intro to give.
Go on then.
And I just came up with it on the fly based on your snappy fashion dress.
Go on then.
I'm joined by a man who wears so many floral shirts, you'd think he'd bought them at a garden gift shop.
That's a decent intro. Well done, high five. I am loving a floral shirt at the minute.
Well, it's not quite floral, but I love the colours.
Yeah, well, I'm just, you know what? There's so many. You can go for a boring, plain white or pink shirt, but why not style your shirts up a bit? I'm loving a decorative shirt.
I like my lemon shirt, you know, with the pale blue one with the lemon zest on it that you wore for your birthday.
Yeah.
I feel like a hula in it.
Feel like what?
Like I'm going for a hula.
Right. You're going for a hula. Is that a thing?
No idea.
What is a hula? Is that like the Hawaiian thing?
I assume it's a party with the grass skirts thing.
Right. So you weren't content last week insulting the Germans and the French. You thought you could give the Hawaiians a little stab by just talking about a hula. I'm going for a hula. I don't know, what do they call it? Is it a hula party or is it a...
I assume so, because I've heard that used before, but
I don't know.
I think I heard that in Lilo and Stitch, but I'm not sure. That's set in Hawaii, I think, so...
Yeah, well done.
I should hope it's accurate.
Yeah. Welcome to Cultural Appropriation 101. Honestly, we are just we are going through the countries like nobody's business.
We should start listing all our inside jokes for the podcast. We've got like other brands are available. This and that 1.1. 101.
What's that? I forgot that one. You know what?
The other brands are available. So when we say something...
No, I know other brands are available. But do you remember that when we went through a phase where all we were doing is making up our own little in-jokes? Like, mind blown. We had that was our little in-joke for ages.
Oh, do you remember we had the like a boss Twitter
when we were walking around just going, boom, like a boss. Walk like a boss. Write like a boss.
I remember there's
like
a picture on my Twitter somewhere, and it's just me sitting reading Agatha Christie or something like that, and it's like reading classical literature like a boss.
Right, can we just settle this? Right, we're like classical literature might be some Greek or Roman philosophy. Agatha Christie is 150 years old. Does that count as classical? Or is it just, yeah? But then you could have a modern classic, couldn't you? Like 1984 or Fahrenheit
It's
451.
not that modern though. They're not that modern.
Yeah, but then where's the line? How about, like, I don't know, A God in Ruins, or like a book that came out recently.
I don't know.
It won the Gloucester Prize for Best Novel, and it is an amazing book as well.
I'm sorry that I'm stuck on YA novels.
I know.
I love a good YA novel.
Yeah, Norton Grosses is an amazing book, though.
I haven't got around to it. I've still got Silence of the Lambs sitting on my shelf, and I've got to get to it. But then I've got to get to One of Us is Lying, and if anyone's ever read that, I love it so much. I don't know. I'm thinking that one of the characters has.
I've got a feeling one of the characters is lying.
They're all lying. They're all.
It's like that book you read. We all die in the end. Oh no! You told me Tell me how it was going to
No,
finish.
it's called They Both Die at the End.
Yeah. What happened at the end?
One of them was in a fire and the other walked out into a road because he was so sad that he lost the one person he'd learned to love.
So they both die at the end.
They both died at the end.
Yeah.
But they were fated to die at the end.
Maybe like maybe you should go for like when you write a book, you should go for something like something that doesn't reveal the end of your book right at the start.
I'm writing a book.
Yeah, how's it going?
I am eight chapters away from the end of the first draft.
Okay.
You're writing a book.
I'm writing the written version of this podcast. I'm writing the Kindness Project book, and I said to you earlier on, I'm probably writing a lot more words than I need, but enjoying the experience. So I'm going to carry on, and then I'll edit down as appropriate. I'm going to go all Edward Scissorhands at the end and just start cutting it all up. But yeah, we'll see how we get on. I think I'm probably still about a year away, but we'll get there. We'll get there.
I am. When's January? I'm a couple of months away from the end, so.
Okay, fair enough. So it'll be done by Jan. What are you going to do? Self-publish, or are you going to?
I haven't decided yet. I think it's really about a publisher would benefit me, and I don't just want it for the money. But then
You're all about the money.
But then I just think it's.
Show me the money.
I just think it's. I did a bit of research on it, and I just think it's really unfair that most writers only get like 30% of the proceeds from their book.
Yeah, but that's the challenge because I published a book self-published book back in 2015. The work that goes into promoting and marketing a book, that you've then got to decide whether that proportion you give away, just the time saving is worth it, and whether you can get a deal.
Encourage or convince like a major publisher to. But it probably wouldn't, but it's just...
Well, you can only try and send it out.
Yeah. But it's whether I could encourage someone who could give the book that push. But that's not for now. That's for when the book is out of the drafting stages and into the second draft stage.
And then you start sending it out to publishers.
And then after the second draft, I'll start sending it out and then starting seeing about what my options are. And I also want to look at designing a cover. But I've got loads of ideas for it, and I can even do it myself.
No, outsource that job. Because otherwise it will be a crayon version of a horse. No.
I can do designing. I do designing for class.
No, I know. But my experience is that when I tried to design my book cover, it looked a bit shocking. And that wasn't the word I was originally going to use.
There's another SH word.
Yes, shambolic. It looked the shizzle. But
it wasn't the best shindig.
But when Shamon, it looked very Shamon. But when I got somebody else to design it, it looked fantastic. Funky. Friendly. Fortunate. Fortitude.
Fabulous.
Fortnight.
Oh my god, no.
Flossing. I looked and I wanted to floss. So I'd always recommend that if it's not in your natural skill set,
It's in my natural
you do this and start with a D called delegate.
I like delegation, it's fun.
Delegation. Anyway, this week's question of the podcast is, what household object or decoration makes you feel nostalgic, but you'd never dream of having in your own house in 2019? Now, the reason I ask this is because me and your mum,
Me mum.
your mum,
Me mum.
and my wife, we're talking about the stuff we used to see in our nan's house. And what they used to have is a knitted doll on top of the toilet roll to hide the toilet roll in the toilet. And felted wallpaper. And doilies and a bunch of stuff that you never dream of seeing in a house in 2019. So the question that you can't answer this very much because you haven't got your own house yet, but is there anything in our house you're definitely not having in your house apart from us? Yeah, me mum and dad.
Let's just say your eyes ain't moving into me when it's,
I'm invited around every now and again, though, aren't I?
Yeah, like, you can come in once a week for 3 hours. You have to schedule time.
Christ,
You have to schedule a week ahead.
That's a bit time restricted, isn't it? Sorry, 2 hours every week.
3.
Straight. Oh, cheers, mate.
You have to schedule a week ahead. So.
Can I push it to 4 hours once a month? I've got to schedule a week ahead.
No, because if you push it to 4 hours a month, you'll only get 1 hour a week.
No, 4 hours once a month, I said.
You can push it to 5 once a month.
Cheers, mate. Appreciate that. Can you let people know where they can get in touch with us?
Sure. We have Twitter. Yeah, it's pretty decent. We're out at Ola Kindness, and if you go into the magical search bar thingy in Facebook or Google, we will come up as the Kindness Project.
Amazing.
All@thekindnessproject.co.uk is the email.
And you can find us all over the web, Google the Kindness Project, but we're at www.thekindnessproject.co.uk.
You okay?
I'm not okay, I'm very tired, but I'm doing all right. Shall we get on with the show?
Yes.
So, our guest this week hails from the good old US of A. She's Swedish. No, she's American, clearly. She's American. And she is a manners expert. She talks quite a lot about manners. Her name is Kristen Johnson. Shall we listen to the first part of her interview?
Yes.
Hi, Kristen. How are you?
I'm doing great, Chris. How about you?
Amazing. You're really, really good. So where you are, is it 10 o'clock in the morning at the minute?
It's 9 o'clock.
9. Okay, so nice and early, and I'm just ending my day.
No.
Yeah. What time are you quite an early riser though? Do you get up? Because I get up about 6. Do you tend to get up quite early?
I do these days. I used to be a night owl, but now I'm very early because I have projects on the several hours ahead. I think that's part of the reason that I tend to get up earlier these days.
Yeah, you want to work on them, didn't you? So tell me a little bit, before we start talking about the book, tell me a little bit about you and your life.
Well, I am a graduate of the University of Southern California, Master of Professional Writing. That's my background in University of Michigan. For undergraduate, I live in California, was born in Michigan, and I've been pretty much writing all my life.
Okay. What made you move to California?
School and family.
Okay.
Definitely school, the great weather, the beautiful community, and all the families migrated out here, and it's just been great.
Cool. I'm looking out my office window at the minute, and it's raining where I am, and it's the middle of August. What's the weather like? I'm gonna regret asking this, I know, but what's the weather like where you are?
Sunny. Probably going to be over 100 degrees, triple digits today.
Yeah, I am regretting asking that question. So how did... Go on.
Heat. Don't feel bad because the heat is... we've lost some rain here. The heat can be really, really brutal around this time of year.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah, I'd imagine going out. I mean, I've just got back from Cyprus for my family holiday, and going out actually at 100+ degrees is quite a tough environment to exercise in and walk in and stuff like that, isn't it?
Yes, and I know people that have lived in Cyprus. Cyprus is supposed to be lovely.
Beautiful, yeah. So we did, my two girls are 7 and 15, so we swam in waterfalls and scenery's beautiful. Yeah, it was really, really nice, but super, super hot. So yeah, it was good fun. So talk to me a little bit about your passion for writing, because it sounds like you've always had that.
I have. I come from a lineage of writers, if you will. My great-grandmother on my mother's side was a writer, and my late mother was also had also written a book.
Okay.
She was a librarian and teacher before she had my sister, and she was always very literate, and my family has always loved writing. We have a lot of creative people in our family.
Yeah.
The next generation, my nephew.
And are they writers as well? Do you reckon it's going to be a family affair?
Well, funny you should ask. We've written stories together, and one story I wrote for them, I decided to have printed up into a book and give it to them for Christmas one year, and it was based on, a bunch of family story a story that I created for them that we all would tell, and then I decided to write it down into a novel, and now that after I gave it to them for Christmas, they're asking, well, is it going to be in the bookstores? I'm thinking, I said, this was just a Christmas gift, maybe someday, so.
Yeah, but what an amazing memory to take. I think, I like to write, but I think a lot of writing's about just having a permanent home for some of those stories, because those stories can get lost in time, can't they? I know there's stories that, like, my family have got 3 or 4 generations back that, unless we write them down, they're just going to be lost in the annals of history.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You have to keep some kind of a book, and it's funny because if we're discussing the social media aspect, everybody thinks our lives are so documented these days with photos and sharing photos and Instagram and things like that and Facebook updates, but it's important to write the things down.
Yeah.
The technology makes it easier, but it also makes it more fragmented because we're there's good sides and bad sides, because you can look on Ancestry.com and look up your relatives and try to do that, and you can actually spark some projects and say, your uncle, your great uncle.
Yeah, there's more information out there, isn't there now? So
Exactly.
So we're here to talk about your book, Ain't You Got No Manners. Tell us the reason you wrote it.
Well, one of the reasons that I wrote it was I was doing a general book about manners with something about over 10 years ago, and that kind of, as projects do, that got shelved. So I went on to other things, life intervened, and then my editor found an actual printout when she was filling out her files and said, this sounds really great, this is still viable. And I thought, and at the time, technology advanced so far above what the original draft. Facebook was Mark Zuckerberg's eye. Jobs hadn't really even created iPhone or anything like that. So the technology was just very different.
Yeah.
And stuff weren't as ubiquitous. So certainly they weren't the part of our lives that are now. So that had to be actually. I thought, what about a general internet manners guide? What about a social media guide? And at the same time, my mom had spoke about which is cornerstone of God no matters. Think before you post.
Yeah.
Very passionate about people, giving people the tools to use social media better.
Yeah.
And of course, during the 2015 was ramping up to the 2016 presidential campaign, and I had no idea that social media would become
Play such a big part, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So it was interesting because I was reporting on life while it was happening, while I was writing, and there was something new every day, every minute.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it made writing the book fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. So to do it in that environment where social media was changing, and yeah, it must have been really interesting. So tell us about the book. It's a guide to internet manners, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And what do you think we do well on the internet, and what do you think we can improve on?
Oh gosh, where do I start? I think one of the things that we do well is spread information, share awareness, support people like you do with your podcast. I've seen some of your charitable endeavors and things that you do to raise awareness for your charity, and I'm sure you find that people are very giving.
You know what? It's really interesting because what we find is you notice how generous people are when you start looking for that sort of stuff. I think a lot of the challenge is that when you want to see the bad in something, I think social media and the internet's got can be a massive force for good. I suppose the challenge you've got is how do you persuade people to have less polarised conversations, I think. And I don't know the answer to that yet. How do you have a conversation that's a bit more human and a less... and part of what we try and do on the Kindness Project is just say, look, we're all human. We might differ in opinion, but we all love people. We all love our families. Can't we have a bit more of a kind conversation? How do we do that? Because a part of that is about etiquette and manners, isn't it?
It is. And just really pausing, like I said, to think about what we're posting and so on.
Yeah.
And trying to be considerate of the other people on the internet. But the thing is, with social media, one of the tenets that I say in the book is that even if you're not on social media, and there are people who absolutely avoid social media, even if you're not on social media, you're on social media because something else is going to get heard about you. But so it's kind of hard to control how you appear on social media, but you do have a choice as to how you respond. Yeah,
agreed. Yeah, no, absolutely right. And in your book, you read. I've read about the benefits of having a think button. Now, I think this is an amazing idea. I love this idea because you're more than welcome. Because sometimes the worst of us comes out when we just don't take that second to think about what we do. And I know, I can't remember what social media platform it is, but I think it might be Instagram or something like that. But they've got now built something into their algorithm that when they see a potentially sort of too negative post, they do ask the question, do you really want to write that? Yeah, I can't remember what platform. I'm pretty sure it's Instagram, actually that is a think button, isn't it? Just take 2 minutes to think about what you're doing, without. Sorry.
Oh, exactly. And I read that and I was just blown away by that. It's almost like I was thinking, did they read the book?
yeah. They might owe you some money for that one, Kristen. Just like so how did you? So I've read about that, but without the benefit of having a button on your email, what tips do you give to people just to take a step back?
Well, I think one of the things is that, and I get this too, we're all so primed to respond right away. I mean, it's kind of like, that's why every time when I belong to several writing groups, and they always tell you when there's a speaker, turn off your cell phone, turn off the sound so that you're not tempted to respond and check the thing all the time.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like we're all geared to respond so quickly, and we get anxious if
We don't.
on us or we don't respond right away. And some things are time sensitive, like if somebody says, I need an answer in the next 5 minutes, that's one thing. But most things are not that urgent.
Great.
So it's you can overanalyze, but sometimes and also another thing I say in the book is when you get upset or offended by an email, just think about, email really doesn't have
Context filter, does it? Yeah.
emotional cues and things like that. I know we have emojis and they're fantastic, but you can misinterpret those too.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. Total.
I think the interesting thing is that when you read an email, how it's sent and how it's received can be two completely different things, can't it? Yeah, agreed. So how do you think we could use social media well or better?
Oh, that's such a great question. You are asking terrific questions.
Thank you. You'd think I'd done this before a couple of times, wouldn't you, Kristen?
It's really wonderful what you do and the variety of topics you cover with your kindness project. It's really wonderful.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. We love it. I mean, for us, I've said this before, but it just started as a project for Charlotte and I to have something together, and it's evolved into something a bit bigger than we expected, to be honest, but still loving the journey.
Well, I think that's wonderful, and wonderful that parents and kids, that you can do it as a father and daughter. Because one of the things and I've been on parenting podcasts, one of the things that they say is that parents aren't always embracing of the technology or social media, and I think the thing about it is to educate yourself.
Agreed. Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. So going back to that question, how do you think we could use social media better?
The use of the think button, I think just thinking about it feels good in the moment, but are you going to regret it 5 years time?
Yes.
Down the line? But I also think somebody said there, I think it was Greg Gutfeld here in the U.S. There should be social media forgiveness thing for anything stupid that you posted.
Yeah.
That's Kevin Hart from the got dropped from the Oscars because of something he posted several years ago that he apologized for and everything. There's just so many examples of people losing their jobs and careers over something they posted 5 or 10 years.
But I think you make a really interesting point, because what I said, and again, I'm 42, so I grew up in a pre and post social media world, and I don't know whether I would have been happy with social media being around when I was 18 or 20 or 22, because guess what? I'm not particularly mature now, but I was a lot less mature then. And I don't know whether I'd be entirely comfortable with that being a reflection of my current self, because it wasn't. So yeah, I like the idea of that forgiveness thing. You know, it is something you said 5 years ago, really you? Don't know.
And we all know that the things we say in the moment, sometimes we don't mean.
Yeah.
I mean, when there's a lot of vitriol online, and there's a lot of people where they're just typing from behind the keyboards, and they're keyboard warriors and things like that. And there's a lot of fake stuff. Not to resurrect fake news, but there's a lot of fake stuff on the internet. Who they pretend to be.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah, great.
there's this commercial for, I believe it was State Farm years ago, and I quote this in the book, where the woman says, I heard this on the internet. I can't say anything on the internet that's not. Oh, here's my date. He's a French model. And this schlubby guy comes out with a beard, overweight, and he says, bonjour.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. I like to think that we've become a bit. I think we think we're wiser about the internet than we are actually, because I think I've had plenty of conversations where people have said, yeah, but I read it on my Facebook feed, so with the implication that it must be true, and you go, yeah, I know you read it on your Facebook feed, but that doesn't mean it's accurate, does it? You know, it means that somebody wants to give you that message. So I'm a great believer that the social media is a tool and we can use it for good. How do we do more of that?
We can support organizations that are like your podcast, like yours, and Paul Lowe has From Our Hearts, the media podcast, and also initiative to spread not only inwardly but online for prosperity and social progress and things like that. And there's Lady Gaga's channel Kindness, Born This Way. There's so many things. There's crowdfunding of people's and things like that. There's raising awareness of causes. There's just so much good out there. And I think focusing on the good is
great.
Is beneficial.
And I know you talked about phone snubbing in your book, which I like. I love the phrase, by the way. And I think part of better engagement, just more generally, is I know I get frustrated when I'm trying to have a conversation with somebody and they're checking their phone. How do we create the boundaries a bit better to make sure that if we're having a conversation, we're having a conversation and it doesn't involve you checking your phone every 2 minutes?
Well, I love the way that you say having a boundary, because I think it's all about the manners. And I don't write anything about in the book that I'm not something guilty of doing myself.
Same.
We all do it, so it's kind of like just sharing, owning it, and being accountable.
And you know what's interesting for me, Kristen? I do it knowing. Let me just be clear on this one. I do it knowing after that how it feels when somebody does it in front of me. Does that make sense? And there's a compulsion to check your phone, as you say, every now and then.
Yes.
But I know how I feel when I'm trying to speak to somebody and they're checking their phone. So yeah, it's an interesting one. Yeah.
I think keeping that in mind and just being in the moment. I mean, obviously, if something's urgent, if it's something with one of your daughters, or if it's something, a family medical thing that you have to stay on top of, or a work thing to stay on top of, everybody understands. But if you're somebody's, and so many people get pet peeves, like if you're talking to somebody and you mention something and they want to look it up for more information, let's say specifically say, well, let's look it up and things like that.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of gray areas in that, but when you're with someone, it's good to give them your full attention.
Yeah, great. Okay.
No matter who it is.
So I think you raised an interesting point, both in the book and through this conversation. And a lot of the conversations I have about kindness often roam into the areas of empathy, so helping somebody understand your situation because they understand a little bit about you. But I suppose online, part of the challenge is that polarisation now of somebody saying, I believe this, so if you believe something else, you're in a different camp and we're not going to sort of bridge that. What do we do about that?
Well, funny you ask that because it's so difficult, and I know people on both sides that have blocked people and things like that, so on, and it's certainly tempting to do that. Although I do write a book about the dangers of doing that, because it's kind of like if you have to interact with that person in your community, it's very, very difficult.
Yeah.
So, but one of the things that I found revealing book was Joe McGovern, who did the documentary The Other Side, where he's a liberal, a Democrat here in the U.S. He went through the U.S. on a tour of basically talking to all conservatives, Republicans, trying to find out, why they believe what they believe, what we have in common.
Yeah.
And he said that on social media you can say, gee, this is how I see it. How does it seem to you? And trying to get some commonality and trying to get some understanding.
Yeah.
But it's very difficult to do that these days when people are heated and in the middle of a Twitter fight or a Facebook fight, and the line is drawn. And the other thing is that we're demonizing each other as evil, Nazi, bad.
I know. So that was Kristen. What did you think?
It was good.
Shall we get on with the end of the show?
Yep. Tis the end.
Tis the end.
I didn't think we were doing Tis the End this week because I didn't think we'd racked up enough.
We have. They're flying in, so we're going to do it.
Oh, cool.
We're going to power through because the end is never the end.
The end is always the beginning of something entirely new.
The end is always the start of last week's question of the podcast answered this week. And last week was, what is your favourite piece of obsolete technology?
Why do you sound like a mad scientist?
I'm trying out some different accents. And we had a few answers. Ian at Money Alive, at My Money Alive, said iPod. So he's in. Yes. We like Ian. Colin Stewart said VHS, and Fiona Jones Bukes, I think it's Bukes, said I had a portable CD player, bought an MP3 but never really used it because phone tech got so good. I used to have a portable CD player, but the problem is CDs skip even when they're static, so running along the road with one never worked particularly well. Tapes were better than CDs.
I had a portable DVD player that I used to just watch Rainbow Bright on in the car.
Rainbow Bright?
It's about this little girl and she used to collect all the colours and then use them to help people. Well, she collected all the colours in the first 2 episodes and she found a magical horse. You can tell I've rewatched it over the years.
When was the last time you watched it?
2 years ago.
Last week.
No, because I lost the disc.
Matthew Warren said Sony Walkman. Russell Dame said, I used to love the sound the dial-up modem made. Now, have you ever heard that sound?
You mean the computer sound?
It goes like this. No, it did. Genuinely. Let me see if I can find. What do you mean the mouth actions? Right. Okay. YouTube's got everything, hasn't it? So other video hosting sites are available. The only one I can think about is Vimeo at the minute, but YouTube.
Dailymotion.
Yeah.
Not
all
Dailymotion.
So this is the sound of a dial-up internet. This is what we're missing out of our lives, people. What do you mean it's dreadful?
I feel bad for you.
That's what you used to have to.
Oh,
that was the sound of the internet, circa, I don't know, what are we looking at? 2000, something like that. Circa 95 to 2000, that was the sound of the internet.
You know what the internet sounds like now?
What?
TikTok.
Silence. Because it's silent. So that was the sound of the internet. Just in case you forgot, listeners, here is the sound of the internet. Are we missing the sound of the internet? Probably not. Oh, God. Anyway, so that was the sound of the internet, and that's what Russell apparently misses. Alison Hagan said, I was an IMAX projectionist for 7 years. I loved lacing the projector until it all went digital.
R.I.P.
And I was replaced by a button. Oh no! We don't like that. And Francis Barrett said, mini disc player. I don't think they were ever not made redundant. They didn't last long, to be honest, mini disc players. And that, my friends, is the end of another fantastic kindness project. Before we end, actually, can I just say something? We are rolling up to our nearly our 100th episode. So we're on episode 97 now. And we have got a fantastic 2 episodes coming up where Don from Do Me a Favour Buddy, one of our favourite guests, other favourite guests are available and exist, came in and for our 100th episode interviewed us, which was a bit amazing, wasn't it?
And the 99.
99 was a good fun as well. And then, so that's coming up. We've got loads more stuff in the pipeline. We're carrying on with the Kindness Project because we love it so much. I mean, you've started going, oh no, I don't want to do another podcast.
It's not that I don't want to do the podcast, it's that I feel drained.
I know. But when we're into it, we love it, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
When we're into it, we love it. So
Have a warm hand.
I know. And on that weird, strange note, we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.